This is episode 7 of the Latter-day Saint Geeks podcast. I'm Spencer, and in this episode, TJ and I discuss some of our favorite Christmas episodes on television, including Doctor Who, Community, Friends, Phineas and Ferb, and Big Bang Theory. Welcome to another episode of the Latter-day Saint Geeks podcast. I'm Spencer, and I'm joined today with TJ, who, since the last time we recorded, is officially back on the Geeks team, mostly for the podcast, but also with an option to write on the blog every once in a while, as he so desires. So, welcome back to the team.
Thank you, and let's be honest, I've had the option to write for a long time. I like to blog when I do get a chance. I hate that I don't get the time, because I know that if I were to sit and start working on a blog, it'll take me like 45 to 50 minutes. I most of the time do not have. But here we are podcasting, so whatever.
But even that took weeks to coordinate because kids and work and just exhaustion of
life.
Being
I
parents
just call it
and
life.
adults.
I'm just like done. Being a parent, being an adult, being responsible. Well, kind of responsible. Well, somewhat. Having things you have to do.
Hey, if the doctor can be considered responsible, I think we're okay.
I'm pretty sure that the psychic paper said no. I cannot tell that lie. So
that's
the
true.
11th doctor said this
true.
is
11 can.
Well, 11 by all means. I mean, he was the youngest doctor.
But
I think he's younger than Jim.
Coincidentally, today is not going to be a Doctor Who podcast. Despite we still have well, not solely based on Doctor Who. There will be plenty of Doctor Who talk today still. But despite the fact that we haven't finished our series on the First Doctor, we have one episode left about the First Doctor that we have trouble scheduling recording time. But today, because this episode is coming out at the beginning of December, we're going to be discussing TV Christmas specials that honestly we could watch every year without fail and still love them. So some of them are favorites, some of them are just too good to pass up or just too good to turn off if they're already on. But before we get to that, we're going to go with recommendations like we always do. So as of when we're recording this, the first of the 3 Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials has already come out on BBC and Disney Plus. And it just so happens that my wife was out when I noticed that it went live on Disney Plus. So you know what I did? I immediately put it on TV and watched it right away.
As you should.
As I should. I had told her beforehand that I was more than happy to get up with our kids the next morning if she needed to sleep longer, just so that I could. And I told her, like, it's because I want to watch Doctor Who, but I'll still do it. I'll still let you sleep. Just so that we can both be happy.
Both be happy, because money doesn't buy you happiness, but it can buy you Doctor Who episodes, and that's pretty much the same thing.
Yes. But anyway, by the time this episode goes live, we'll have the second of the 60th anniversary specials out, and I'm sure we'll get to this at some point in the relatively. Well, we might get to this at some point in 2024, or at least on our next Doctor Who episode, briefly discussing the 60th anniversary specials. But I was pleasantly surprised by the first special, and I'm looking forward to the other ones.
I was definitely pleasantly surprised. Well, I can't say I was pleasantly surprised, because let me rephrase that. Pleasant, yes. Surprised, not so much. Knowing
fair enough
that the writing was coming from
Russell
and,
T
and the
Davies.
direction was coming from Russell T Davies, who managed Doctor Who in its I don't want to say early days because that is absolutely wrong, but it's a rejuvenating days.
Wibbly wobbly.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. I mean, he was the man in charge when it was
He
Chris
revived the whole
Eccleston
thing.
and David Tennant. What?
I said he revived the whole thing.
He revived the whole thing pretty much, and then I kind of feel like he's doing what he can to revive it again. I read that something that this episode last week, which obviously not going to be last week's anymore, but the first episode of the 14th Doctor here was one of the highest rated episodes of in a long time for
I'm not
Doctor Who.
surprised.
So I'm really excited.
I mean, just the return of David Tennant and Donna Noble and Russell T Davies all at the same time.
I don't think Donna Noble is her name in real life.
Well, you know what I mean.
And now, like, my mind has just gone blank on
Catherine Tate.
Catherine. I'm like, I know Catherine. I had Catherine in my head, and I'm like, I had Hepburn. And I'm like, I know that's not her last name.
It just seemed wrong to say the return of the 10th Doctor or the return of the 14th Doctor.
You couldn't say the return of the
because neither of those are true.
No, I do kind of wish though that he had was able to speak Scottish instead of
that would have been fun.
in his current accent that he uses as the Doctor. I just thought just because his face changed doesn't mean yes, exactly what I was quoting. Just because he returned to his old face doesn't mean he had returned to his old voice, but it's all good though. I really liked it. I really enjoyed the episode. But that's your recommendation. I'm not gonna steal yours, even though I can absolutely agree with it. My recommendation is the one thing that will get Spencer to play Magic the Gathering one of these days, and that is the Magic the Gathering Doctor Who Commander decks. So basically, if you know what Magic the Gathering is, that is a collectible card game. And if you know what Doctor Who is, well, if you don't know what Doctor Who is, I don't know. You shouldn't be listening.
I don't know why you're following the two of us if you don't know what Doctor Who is.
Not right now. But basically, Magic the Gathering, which is owned by Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, they have been doing collaborations with non-Magic the Gathering. We'll go with universes. I believe they call it the Universes Beyond series of different things. They've done Warhammer, but they also done Dungeons and Dragons, which is another Wizards of the Coast property anyway. Doctor Who, however, they came out with 4 different decks, which I thought the split was kind of interesting, but it did make a lot of sense to me. They have a deck that is the classic deck, and it's starting with the it starts with the first 8 Doctors throughout. The main Doctor in the deck being the 4th Doctor, and Sergeant Smith as his companion. Zero surprise for me. So having that, then there is a deck of the modern, 2 decks really from Modern Who. One that is goes from Christopher Eccleston through. I would have to say through. I think the War Doctor is represented in that deck because it is Matt Smith, and in the middle of Matt Smith's range. So it goes from War, but also 9, 10, and 11. With Rose being 10 and Rose being the main pairing that they put in that deck. And when I say that, if you don't know enough, if you know a little bit about Magic, there's a specific type of way to play Magic where you have a 100-card deck. Anything besides a basic mana card or basic land card is you're only supposed to have one of it, with very few exceptions. But anyway, within this Doctor Who deck, you have the 10th Doctor and Rose as your commander. Sometimes you're allowed a second commander. Usually you only have one, but with the Doctor Who, it made a lot more sense that at least 3 of the decks you can have 2. The third deck features Peter Capaldi, Jodie Whittaker, as well as I don't know what we call her, Joe Martin. What is
I've
she?
always called like the fugitive doctor.
Fugitive Doctor. Thank you. I was like, I have a
I
word.
think that's
There's a
what
word
she's
on the
been
card,
termed.
and she's termed that on her card as well. Um, and that deck, that's the deck with Clara in it. Clara and Bill, especially since Clara, I think, spent more time with the 12th Doctor than the 11th.
Yeah, two
Um,
seasons versus half a season.
yep. So, but it features the 13th Doctor as the main Doctor in that set with Yaz, but it has all of the Doctor's family, quote unquote. So that's how the 13 or the Doctor's fam.
Yeah,
I
my
think this
family
is the card that
fam.
refers to it. Fam. Um, and then there's a villains deck that you could either have Missy or Davros as your main card, and that you only get one because it's the villains. Why do they need a companion? They don't care.
Obviously, you go with
So,
Missy, but
yes. I have played with each of them at least once. I'm waiting for the day where I get my wife and daughter didn't want to play, so my son and I have played with them. My favorite card comes from one of my least favorite doctors, which is so sad, but it's a very good card in it, and that's with the sixth doctor's card.
ooh, I knew you were gonna say that.
I didn't want to say that. Believe me, I love the I love the artwork in it, especially like the fourth doctor's artwork. The scarf is a card itself. It has its own card. There are different tokens in Magic. One of the ones that came out a few years ago that they used in one of the sets is a food token, and there are food tokens in Magic the Gathering. And of course, with the Fourth Doctor's deck, well, the food token is a Jelly Baby. So, or a
Of
bag
course.
of Jelly Babies, I should
Oh
say.
my gosh, that's
With
adorable.
the 10th and 11th Doctor's deck, it's Fish Fingers and Custard. So the artwork just impresses me so much. Like that's where I'm pleasantly surprised. And if you ever get back near me or near someone who has these decks, you would, I think, really appreciate, at least from an artwork. All the lands even have a TARDIS drawn into them.
Oh, that's
The artwork is just so impressive. They're not cheap. Like about $200 on Amazon, I think, right now still for the four of them, which makes it $50 a deck. But with what's in the deck from a Magic player perspective, there's a lot in there that's worth it. And from an art perspective, there's a lot in there that's worth it.
No, that makes sense.
So yeah, that's my long-winded recommendation.
That's okay. Um, yeah, that would be I've had two people attempt to teach me magic, but the rules are similar enough, but also different enough from Yu-Gi-Oh! That I've struggled to keep it all straight. So, but if one thing could get me committed to get it all straight, it would be these Doctor Who decks. So,
And the one problem for being a new player, from a new player mindset with the Doctor Who decks, they are very complicated. The least complicated deck would be, I think, the Villains deck or maybe the 10th Doctor's deck. One of the problems is that the fourth Doctor's deck, I say it that way just because that's who's on the cover. But the fourth Doctor's deck, that is all the doctors make that one complicated, but you could have 8 different doctors out just with that deck. One of the cards in that deck says that, and you can copy thanks to the sixth doctor. That's why I like the sixth doctor. He can copy the other doctors. And in doing so, one of them says if you get 13 doctors out, then you win the game. So, which to me makes sense. If you've got all 13, at least there's 13 with you, then you got kind of a problem.
yeah. Well, moving on from
Anyway,
our recommendations and from Doctor Who, at least temporarily,
temporarily, always temporarily.
let's go
Oh, I
with
do have to say, well, hold on. Matt Smith is 100 and something days younger than Jodie Whittaker. I looked it up. So Matt Smith maintains the youngest. I made a comment
oh,
earlier. I just want to make sure that trivia piece, for all those who care or don't care.
okay.
I care. I always care. It's a number. I'm a numbers nerd, so
That
I
is
had to make sure.
okay.
Okay, we can move on now to our
Okay.
Christmas themed, which doesn't have anything to do with numbers other than people doing a countdown to Christmas.
Yep. There's a reason you're an accountant. Um,
Thank you.
let's start with Community. So you had said that Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas was your favorite of the Community Christmas episodes. Let's
Not
start
just
there.
mine, but it is a lot of people's. I do love that episode, but I do have to share this story with that episode. So last year, well, first of all, I'll watch Christmas whenever I feel like it. It could be hot
Yep.
in August, and I will watch it. I don't care. Last year, while my wife and our oldest child were in St. George, for a marching band competition, I was stuck with the other three kids, at home. And of course, my son, who's now in the marching band himself, last year, I don't even know where he ended up most of the time. And then my now 11-year-old, the two of them, they were in and out. But my youngest, she sat by me on her tablet a lot. And I was bored one of the nights. I think it was the Thursday night or the Friday night. And so I turned on Community. And it's November and it's Utah, so it was kind of cold. So I ended up watching, and it's probably where I was. I mean, I've gone through the show like 7 times now.
Yeah, I think you've seen it more than I have.
Probably that. And anyway, so we'll go with that. Yes, I've seen it a lot. And I got to that episode with Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas, and my now 7-year-old, so she was only 6. She watched it with me. I didn't realize she paid any attention to it, I'm gonna be honest. But she laughed because she saw it and there was all this like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer animation in it. Well, the next day when I don't know what we were doing, she said, "Are we gonna watch that again?" And she said, "Are we gonna watch the Christmas movie?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what you're talking about," because I think we watched like 4 or 5 episodes, or at least I did that night before. She's like, "The Christmas movie, the one with the Christmas pterodactyl." Well, she said Christmas with the dinosaur, is what she said. So the dinosaur. So in my mind, I'm thinking like Brontosaurus or T-Rex. And
Nope, the
like, oh wait,
Christmas
no,
pterodactyl.
the Christmas pterodactyl. And so now, and then that weekend, I watched that episode. I'm not kidding. You know how a kid can watch the same
Oh
TV
yes.
show or episode or movie a million times, and it's, I think, a million times worse when you're ADHD. Well, I know I'm ADHD. I don't know if she is or not, but she's my child, so it doesn't surprise me. We watched that episode at least 8 or 9 times, and between that weekend and Christmas, we probably watched it another 10 or so times because she kept wanting every night. She'd ask if we could watch the Christmas pterodactyl.
That's adorable.
I had to teach her not to quote Shirley because certain words are not exactly appropriate. And when Shirley gets turned into a baby doll, my daughter thought it was hilarious because it is hilarious in my mind. It's just not necessarily something I want my 6-year-old quoting.
Yeah, sounds about right.
But I had to watch it a lot last year, and so it is. And she did not. She didn't ruin it for me. I was sick of it last year. I'm gonna be honest. I was sick of it after a while, but I
But
could go
she
watch
still
it
loves
again.
the Christmas pterodactyl. That's how it
She
sounds of
loves
it.
the Christmas pterodactyl. That's her number one favorite thing. Like I'm sad the show is so old because I wanted to go and see if I could find somebody somewhere with like Etsy or something creating a Christmas pterodactyl ornament, but I could not find one, unfortunately. So that's one of my favorites. And out of the 4 Community Christmas episodes, that is by far my favorite.
When I just the other day I started rewatching the Christmas episodes for a blog post that I'm working on. Actually should be coming out just a couple days after this podcast episode. But I've watched the first 2 so far, starting on the one about Glee Club. What are regionals anyways?
Yep, I love that sentence. That
They're
statement.
this close.
Mocking
They're
Glee,
this close, Pierce.
making fun of Glee. I love that. That's the season 3 episode. I do love that one, and that's my second favorite. But
yeah, but it's but yeah, so but as I'm watching those, I'm also like looking at old Christmas posts that we did for the blog for that and for this
Right.
podcast episode. Apparently, I listed Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas as my favorite as well, at least once. So apparently,
Well,
at
that
least apparently, at least me in the past agreed with you. So, but
that's the right answer. I mean, I
of
love the Glee episode. I do. A little
I
creepy.
do definitely also love the first Christmas episode, but I think, and I'll include this in my blog post that
December 10th,
yeah,
not
the
Christmas.
December 10th one. Um, but it just she it's one of those moments that, and I'll talk about this more in the blog post, but like Shirley just is the kind of Christian that gives Christians a bad rep, which
Mm-hmm.
is really sad because I want to believe the best in our Christian brothers and sisters in and outside of our church, but there are plenty in and outside of our church that just don't know how to interact with people that don't believe the same as them.
I do think that that is something though that community does. I don't want to say right. That's not the right term, but community does something where it is a TV show about the extreme. I mean, it is a
Mm-hmm.
cartoonized already before this episode of Christmas, where it's like everybody's to an extreme, and so surely with Christmas, at least each of the first three, there's a very strong Christian, um, my religion, my beliefs, whatever concept that she does portray, and that does, I think, come across really well in this uncontrollable Christmas episode again. That's why Abed turns her into a baby doll, because if she's not getting her way, she's whining about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very telling of this is the character that we intended to write, and I think Yvette Nicole Brown did an awesome job with it.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that the somewhat related comment that I like about the community Christmas episodes in general, not just Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas, but the other ones as well. At least the first three. I can't remember if it's really included in the last one, but that um, you know, that Christmas is, at least these days, yes, it's a religious holiday, and coming from the Christian perspective that we do, like it's obviously got more going on for us than just presents and Santa Claus and even family time. But I like that in many ways I've grown to love the fact that Christmas is for more than just like it's become more than just a religious holiday. Yes, because we're Christians, we're gonna appreciate the Christian aspect of it. But I mean, in Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas, there's a line, probably paraphrasing here, but like Christmas, the meaning of Christmas is that Christmas has meaning. And like we give it the meaning that we are willing and able to give it. And the meaning for Abed was being together with people who cared about him. And I think that comes across in a lot of holiday specials nowadays.
Right. I think with that, with the song that they sing at the end, that Shirley makes them sing at the end because Shirley still forces her tradition, that they all sing, that you have everybody who has different background, different religions, and it it becomes that the statement is made that in the darkest times of the year, I mean, the shortest day of the year is shortly before Christmas, just a few days, that even during those darkest times of the year, we can all be together and be happy together and be
Mhm.
friends together, be comforted together. Like that's the part where it's like this is what makes the show and makes Christmas such a powerful thing, is it doesn't have to be just for Christians. We can celebrate love and family and friendship um, at that time of year. And part of the reason why we do it at that time of the year in the non-Christian mentality would be it's because we're still all needing comfort and friends. We don't have to bah humbug our way.
Agreed. So let's move on to one that I picked. Phineas and Ferb, now on Disney Plus, had a Christmas special called Winter Vacation. Um, I don't believe that you've ever seen Phineas and Ferb unless your kids happen to watch it.
I mean, I've seen Phineas and Ferb. I probably have heard at the very minimum that episode. One of my kids in particular has watched all of it, I know. So, but I'm not familiar with that one, so I'm gonna let you take it away.
So unlike the rest of Phineas and Ferb, that like most of more or less the rest of it takes place during the summer, we got a Christmas episode that, I mean, just like the rest of Phineas and Ferb, there's the silly musical numbers, there's um multiple ridiculous plots going on. Just a regular Phineas and Ferb kind of tone.
But a normal Phineas and Ferb day.
Yeah, pretty much. But what I really like about this Christmas special is that it's, you know, it again is another one that's it's not from a Christian perspective. You know, there's a one liner reference to one of the secondary characters being Jewish, but even then it's like we're still talking about Christmas the whole episode. Um, but I like that the whole point of the episode was Phineas and Ferb wanted to show just how much they were grateful for, you know, Santa bringing presents, that it's that Christmas for them was a time that they wanted to show their gratitude, as opposed to, you know, every other kids show where the kids just want to, you know, me, what am I getting for Christmas, what, you know, what's in it for me. um this kids show decided that they wanted to show gratitude and teach gratitude about, like, you know, it's still Santa Claus, but let's be grateful for what he does and the presents that he brings. So we still get some Santa Claus North Pole antics like most other kids shows, but it's takes it from a different viewpoint. Which I was talking with a friend this week about how he's got a hard time with Christmas because it's all materialism, and it's all me, starting with Black Friday all the way through the end of the year. And all I could think of was this Phineas and Ferb Christmas special that, yeah, there's the gift giving and the gift receiving, but it's also, you know, the just gratitude as well, which I think the world could use more of that.
Well, I think
Also,
the world can use a lot more gratitude in it.
seriously. Also, I don't know if it came out at the same time as this Christmas special, but there's like a whole Phineas and Ferb Christmas soundtrack or Christmas album that um me and our friend David just like every once in a while just like quote back and forth just for the heck of it. Like I'll pull out a one line from one of the songs because they're all Phineas and Ferb parodies of Christmas songs basically.
Nice.
And
Now I'll have to go watch it.
yeah, not all the songs from the album are in that episode.
Right.
There's actually another episode that takes place during the summer that's their misplaced Christmas special that they record
Hmm.
for the local cable station. And most of the other songs from the album are in that episode, but that's a little bit convoluted for, you know, a Disney kids show cartoon.
Right. No, I think that's Phineas and Ferb is a fun show, and it's very interesting because it's so out there, everything they do.
Oh yeah.
And then at the very end it's like it all gets cleaned up. But on the same token, it always feels like there's a subtle lesson that you didn't realize you were learning while you went through it with them.
Is that they make it formulaic, like most
Yep.
other kids shows, but they make it in a way that it's almost making fun of those formulaic kid shows at the same time.
Yep.
So
Yep. And that's the best way to make fun of them is by using another one.
yep.
Basically using the show that does make fun of it. Like when, well, not to go backwards to Community, but Community has a clips show, except it's not a clips from any of the actual episodes.
Oh yeah. I mean, all of Community is just, you know,
It's making fun of
sarcastic
pretty
commentary
much
on
anything.
everything.
Yep, flavor of the week there.
Mhm.
Okay. I think it comes down to Christmas. Yeah, you can buy the gifts and you can commercialize it all you want. But when it comes to knowing someone, I mean, that's the reaction I like. You know, Friends has that in another Christmas episode with trying to find gifts and trying to outdo Monica. But it has to do with, hey, I got something for you, and it's because I thought about you.
Mhm.
It's not a random gift card to Walmart or Amazon, or I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes maybe that's nice, but this is something to me, the Big Bang Theory episode. It's saying, it's the reminder that it is the thought that counts. When you put in thought, when you actually do try and put in some sort of a thought, and it has meaning to that person, that, like, honestly, when Sheldon did that in that episode, that's one like the only episodes. When it came out, I recorded it on TV to watch it with my wife later, but I watched it while it was recording. Loved it. Took it out of my VCR. VCR. That's how old I am. We had a VCR. Went over to my neighbor's house who loved Big Bang Theory, and they didn't have TV. And I said, "Do you want to watch the Christmas episode?" Like that night, I watched it twice. Like, to me, especially because of that scene, and really, that's the one scene that makes that episode so great. Is just I put thought into this, and if I keep talking, we'll never get done. So I'm gonna just
I will say that's just one of my favorite parts of the gift giving experience and gift receiving is like, yeah, I can have my Amazon wish list but when, I am buying a gift for a friend or heck, buying a gift for my wife that, we could be, we're buying the gift out of the same bank account. It's you know, I could, she could get me something off my wish list. She could get me something that she knows that I'd love, and what matters more than the buying is the thought.
yep.
And I think
It's
that's
the
the
thought more than mine.
and I think that's where like the mature gift giving experience happens is when it really is the thought that counts and not just the gift.
And I mean that's with when if you look at that love languages idea, and there are people whose love language is gift. My love language is gift, and I feel like it's a language that I speak very well.
Mhm.
When my wife and I were dating, I was the first boyfriend of hers that not only bought roses because that's her middle name and they are her favorite flower, but I bought her yellow roses because that was her favorite color. I didn't realize it, but when I bought them for her, no other boyfriend had bought her yellow roses. I know that
Aw.
yellow roses are a symbol of friendship, but it was like it had nothing to do with that because the symbol was is negligible nowadays. It's just more like that's her favorite color, so why wouldn't I buy her a flower that matches her favorite color and
Yeah.
her favorite flower? And that was the mindset. And it's just like I'm not like the world's greatest gift giver, but it's like if I can add the thoughts together and see the things that a person would like and appreciate, and I see that thing, then I
Yeah.
want to buy it, even for people I don't even know that well. And it sucks because it's like I want to, I can't spend all the money in the world because I don't have it. But it's like I like to see people enjoy a gift that they weren't always expecting. Okay, now we can go on to the rest of this time.
Which appropriately, timey-wimey, is Doctor Who. And I did not do a count of how many Christmas specials Doctor Who has had since 2005. But we're getting another one this year with the return of Russell T Davies. We're getting a Christmas special and not just the New Year's specials. So So there are so many episodes that we could have picked for to discuss for Christmas. Um, you noted your favorite as the Husbands of River song, so I'll let you touch on that before we touch anything else.
Sweet. I mean, I love the Doctor Who Christmas episodes, a lot of them anyway. Um, I mean, there are so many that are so good. The thing about the Husbands of River song, there's a lot of times throughout Doctor Who where the statement is made by the Doctor, um, in a roundabout way, whether implied or directly, that the TARDIS takes the Doctor where the Doctor needs to go.
Yeah.
And at this time, Clara has just, well, she's died and she's vanished, and he's pulled her out of time. I mean, and he's forgotten her, but he knows he's forgotten something, and something important, and he's lost his friend and he is lonely. And so he goes and ends up being accidentally pulled into helping essentially his wife.
His timey-wimey wifey.
And with the Husbands of River song, first of all, I think it's the first Doctor Who episode that actually made me cry. To be honest, there.
Just no small
And
feat.
then no, although it's become easier. I think it broke me or something because it's become a lot easier since then. But but that episode alone, and the thing is that throughout most of the episode, he knows who River Song is. He absolutely does. He's, loved her for years at this point. But of course, their timelines are so out of order, and he knows exactly how her timeline is going to end at some point. He is stuck in a position where he's looking at someone he loves and she doesn't recognize him because she has never seen that face of his.
Yeah, at that point, she
And
was still under the assumption that he was out of her generations
yep,
after 11.
with Matt Smith. With Matt Smith's supposed to be the final Doctor in what she knew and understood of the Time Lords, and when he sees her, to me, and I don't remember exactly, but Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, he's grumpy. He's a really good grumpy Doctor, but he smiles when he sees River.
Oh, he's just so happy in this episode.
Yeah, like he's having fun, and it's the first time that he seems to really, really, truly do that. I think he spent so much time worrying about Clara and worrying about who he was that when he sees River, he knows he can be himself and not worry anymore. But she doesn't know who he is. And that moment when she throws a fit, just to try to stall, when they're in trouble, they could be killed at any second, and
He's kind of giving her speech about the Doctor at that
giving
point.
her speech about the Doctor not loving her and how painful that would be for him to listen to the person that he does love say he never loved me. Like, she clearly, it's River Song. She is scanned for a lie when she says that the Doctor never loved her, and maybe in that moment she believed it. I don't know, but I kind of think she's just that good at lying. And the Doctor's just standing there, like how painful that would be. And then he says,
but then to get the reassurance, like, you're wrong, I'm here.
Yep.
And then that's when she realizes who he is.
he he says he's tried to tell her who he was so many times that she just doesn't catch on because of her belief that he's only had so many regenerations. It's been so strong that she can't follow it. And then he says,
so much is
fine,
going on
2
that he
words.
couldn't get a word in.
Yep. He really couldn't. I mean, they're sitting for dinner. He probably could have then, but maybe least appropriate moment. But he just,
By that point, I think he was just messing with her.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. but him saying "Hello, sweetie" to her, like that is the moment where it's like I don't know that I teared up in that one, but that is definitely a moment where I could have teared up.
Mhm.
So, and there's a lot to this episode. Now, it is not Christmas themed. It takes place at Christmas, though. He comes out of the TARDIS with antlers on because it is Christmas, whatever planet they're on. It's
Mhm.
Christmas, and he is, you know, to me, it's almost like sometimes the universe gives you something
Mhm.
that you didn't know you needed right when you need it most, and that is exactly what happened. Um, is that he got one more day with the person that he thought he would never see again.
Oh, and then their last day together, I was trying to look it up. She turns out they spend a whole day on Beryllium,
Beryllium.
and
Yep.
he tells her that one night on Beryllium is 24 years. So they get to spend
Yeah.
24 years together before she goes off to the library.
Yep.
Heartbreaking,
Which
but
is
romantic.
heartbreaking, but also it just goes to the that feeling of that full circle feeling,
Hmm.
right? That's kind of what I saw there. And it's mentioned later on, and I won't go with that. Never mind. Sorry. With the Doctor and River, it's such a it, the ending part of that episode is all about him preparing and creating quote unquote perfect final date for them.
Hmm.
Um, knowing that in the end it's too late. They're on Beryllium. He doesn't get the choice to stop it. So he has in the past so many times, and then he can't anymore.
Hmm.
Anyway, I can talk about that episode a lot. There are other Doctor Who episodes that I love, like A Woman in a Wedding Dress.
I was gonna say, like, honestly, like I'm looking at a list of the Christmas episodes right now, and honestly, most of them, the most Christmassy thing about them is that it happens on Christmas. The Christmas is not the
Right.
theme of it. Like, who in their right mind, even Donna Noble, decided that, yeah, I should have my wedding on Christmas Eve? Who would even be coming
Christmas
to that
Day. It's not
wedding?
Christmas Eve.
Oh, it was Christmas Day?
It's Christmas
Who
Day.
who would agree to go to that wedding?
Maybe
That's
it's
what I
different in England.
I don't know, but still, it's like I would. In some
I
ways,
don't know.
it was daring for me and my wife to get married a week after Christmas.
I got married a week before, so I
So
mean,
same idea. Like,
well, let's top that. My birthday's the day before Christmas, so
well, that's something you can't control.
yeah, you got at least a month between your wedding anniversary and your birthday. So,
Yeah. Um.
but I mean, on top of that, Donna decides to make the day that is supposed to be about Jesus, about her. I mean, it is done a very Donna Noble thing to do.
Yeah.
She's not Donna Noble, she's Donna Bold at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
she does all the noble things though later on.
Mm.
The Christmas Carol episode, which is not my favorite, but a lot of people, I saw a list recently where that was rated the number one, and I can see the appeal, especially Christmas Carol being one of my favorite Christmas stories to begin with, and them adapting it to this,
I
to
mean,
Doctor Who.
honestly, just the 11th Doctor had a lot of more Christmassy Christmas specials than the 10th
Yeah,
Doctor or even the 12th Doctor did. Um,
yeah, I
between,
didn't.
go ahead.
Oh, I shouldn't say I didn't like the. I mean, I can only think of the other. Well, I guess there's two. There's Last Christmas.
I mean,
I mean, Last Christmas really was Christmas theme. It has Santa in it, so and
that's
it's not a
true,
robot. Santa's not a robot.
but he was a dream,
He
or
was
was he?
was he? I
Um,
don't know.
but yeah, with the David Tennant, we had a good number of Christmas episodes, but they all just kind of happened to take place on Christmas. None of them really had plot regarding Christmas. But then with Matt
Yeah.
Smith, you've got Christmas Carol, the Doctor, the Widow in the Wardrobe.
which isn't
Trying,
really. I mean,
but
that
it's
one's
him helping the family enjoy
at
Christmas,
Christmas. Yep,
like trying to give them a Christmas miracle.
yep,
And then the
and
Snowman,
that's what
which I
makes it
know you love.
Christmassy. The snowman, is that really Christmassy?
Yeah.
I mean, that's got
Well,
the
I don't
creepiest
know. I don't know if
snowman.
it's Christmassy, but it's at Christmas, and you love it. So,
I don't love it. I just love Clara. But there's a difference here, and it
and you
has
love
one
the
of my
one word.
favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Exactly, it has probably one of my all-time favorite scenes in Doctor Who, which, to be honest, is probably topped by River saying, or by the 12th Doctor saying "Hello, sweetie" to River. That one just barely edges out words for me.
But then we've also got the Time of the Doctor, which it's on a planet, or no,
Called
it's a
Christmas.
town called Christmas on
Yeah.
Trenzalore. Like it's a town called Christmas. I think I can give him that one a little bit, not completely,
Yeah,
but
that one. But Clara is trying to celebrate Christmas at home and keeps
that's
getting pulled
true.
away because of the
Um,
Doctor.
but then the 12th Doctor ones, I mean, other than Last
Last
Christmas, it's
Christmas.
all just on Christmas. None of them really have anything to do with Christmas itself.
Yeah, including the River Song one.
So the Return of Doctor Mysterio, I always
I
just
don't
even
even
forget about
understand
that
why that's Christmas.
because the first scene is
Oh, and yeah,
is it
on Christmas, the first scene, but the rest of it, I just
yeah,
didn't understand why that was the chosen story for Christmas.
yeah. And then the
There you go.
Twice Upon a Time with the first Doctor, it's a I
That
mean
was
it's
Christmas one?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's during the First World War when the fighting stopped, I
Right.
think. But
It has a very, very strong um feel to it.
but the but the bigger plot of the episode for the doctors in that one was the struggle to accept their impending regenerations, and again, not about Christmas.
No,
So
nope. I
we'll
totally see it that way.
see.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was all New Year's episodes.
It's all
So
New Year's episodes,
we'll
and
see
then
what Russell T Davies does with the 15th
I
Doctor,
know.
whose first true story is supposed to be the Christmas episode.
Right, because we have two
Two
episodes
more with the
this
14th Doctor.
so this weekend coming up, which is the December 2nd,
Yeah, that'll be
and then
past
December
tense by the
9th.
time this episode goes
Yes.
live. So we have
So the
one
December
more by the
2nd
time this
episode,
episode comes out.
and then there's gonna be one on there is one on Christmas Day itself, right?
Correct. That's going to be the
Okay.
15th Doctor's first story.
Okay. So yeah, for some reason I thought there was a whole nother year between. So I'm glad
Nope,
I haven't been
we
paying
got
attention.
just we get 4 episodes within a month.
Wow.
That's more than Doctor Who
Really
fans
good
have had
Doctor
for a long
Who
time.
compared to one a year for a couple of years. Yeah, that's really
Yep,
good.
yep,
So
yep.
I'd like to just point out though, I mean, we talked about a lot of different TV shows, ones that have characters who are agnostic, atheistic, characters who believe themselves somewhat to be God themselves in their own right and own way.
The Doctor.
Yeah, exactly. And Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory.
That's true.
You have people who are characters who are Jewish, like Ross Geller, Annie
And
Edison, and Howard Wolowitz on Community, Big Bang Theory, and Friends, in whatever order I properly said them in, as well as Phineas Ferb used to date a character.
yep.
But the idea is that I was looking at, we're talking about Christmas episodes, and some people would point out these are not Christmassy enough, right? It's not the spirit of Christmas. It's not the focus of Christ. And while I get that and I can appreciate that, the Community episode is about togetherness. The Phineas and Ferb episode you mentioned was about gratitude. The Friends episode is about who we are and where we come from. The Big Bang Theory is about the thought and the price of a thought and the value to a thought. And the Doctor Who episode is that sometimes the universe does what we need when we need it most, when we didn't realize we needed it. I think there's a very Christ-like Christian thoughts, very Christ-centered things, spending who we spend time with, how we spend our time, what we focus on, whether or not we spend money becomes irrelevant. All these things, these are what the real spirit of Christmas is to begin with.
Well, I think that's I can't say it any better than that, so I'll let you sign us out.
Alien abductions are involuntary, but probings are scheduled.
Thanks for listening to the Latter-day Saint Geeks podcast. We're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but we don't represent the church in any official capacity. Remember to subscribe to the podcast. You can see our show notes and blog posts on latterdaysaintgeeks.com, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Latter-day Saint Geeks. Music was provided courtesy of David Schradel.